All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, to the people who are following us on our live streams, and hello, everyone, to the people in the room. We're just kicking this off. This is our first Oracle user group meeting where we're covering all topics of cloud applications. And today's topic is how innovative local governments are using Oracle Service Clouds to increase citizen engagement. So while everyone in the room is still settling in, I'm not sure whether we can maybe close the door. I wanted to welcome everyone. I wanted to say thank you to Deloitte. Unfortunately, Marcelo, who was planning to be here to say a few words, he couldn't make it. He's, I think, stuck on end of financial year activities like so many other people at the moment. But huge thank you to the Deloitte team of hosting this amazing event and putting on some food and some drinks here and enabling us to use the facilities. Emergency procedures for everyone in the room. Brett is a local, so if there's anything happening, we just follow you, yeah?
Okay. I'll be out the door to the right.
And toilets.
Try and keep up.
Toilets are just outside there as well. Yeah, don't follow it online if there's an echo. A little bit about myself, Anita. I'm in the Oracle field now since, I think, about 7 years, ex-Oracle director, then with Machia, now doing my own thing with Kite. Since I started with Oracle, I've always wanted to do user groups. I've tried within Oracle a few times. There's been stop and go attempts. And I'm really proud to say that now I have the role of chairing the Cloud Applications Track, where for this year I have committed to organise 6 events across Australia. So wish me luck. There's a lot of work, but I'm quite passionate about getting this going. Why do I think is this important for the community, for us, for the partners, for Oracle, for our clients? It's because it's about sharing, right? It's about sharing knowledge, learning about what's new in the platform, learning from clients, seeing what's happening, from a technology point of view, the art of the possible, and at the end of the day, just getting together, having a glass of wine, just getting to know the people around us. Because those events do cover, all partners of Oracle, it may be hosted by Deloitte, but we also invited all the other partners, and I'm an Oracle partner, and there's others in the room. We have a strict rule of no poaching, selling, pitching or recruiting. So anyone who's caught with any of those activities, you will be gently uninvited for any future events. And that's really it. So without further ado, we kick off to the first presentation. Before we do that, I might just show you very quickly the agenda. So we have a very tight-packed agenda. Welcome, we're done with it. First up is Wallace, solution architect from Deloitte, who will share with us some council case studies. Then the main topic will be from Gavin. He will show us how, the technology, how using technology to streamline customer service requests with processing with Oracle Service Cloud. Sorry, I got that this time. Then we have Just One Tip, where we dive into the chat functionality from Deepak. And then our ISV partner will show us how we can do data integrations to really minimize and reduce business risks and costs from Elia Machalias, CEO from Datalynx. And that's it. So, Brett, over to you. And
thank you, Anita.
Sorry, before we kick off, I know there's quite a lot of people following us on LinkedIn. This is an interactive session, and I see people already commenting online. You can use the LinkedIn comment stream to post any chats or any questions or any comments, and we can address them as they come in. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anita. So my name's Brett Wallace. Apologies to people in the room. I've got my back to you. I've got the camera up here as well. So I've been working with Oracle products now for almost 8 years, I think, probably just over 8 years. I've worked at Magia, I've worked for myself, and now here as a solution architect at Deloitte. So today, in terms of a case study, I'm going to be covering off 2. One in more depth, which is the Moonee Valley Council implementation. And then we've got a little bit about Hume. And the reason we've only got a little bit about Hume, they've only just gone live recently. So we're going to be covering off that. Next one, please, Anita. So a bit of background on Moonee Valley Council. So they're a council in the inner northwest here in Melbourne. They've got about 128,000 residents, cover an area, a geographical area of about 43 square kilometres. And their first go live, they had a soft go live back in 2020, with the main go live in May 2021. So they've been running for about 12 months now with this particular solution being based upon Service Cloud. In terms of requests, they're doing about 4,700 a month at the moment, incoming requests from their customers and their own internal staff. And that has actually been growing. So back when they started the project, probably just after or just before they went live, they were only doing, it was about 2,700 or so, and it grew by about 900 a month through the following year in 2021, and now they're up around 4,700. If you can go to the next one, please, Anita. So in terms of the architecture, and this is the kind of pattern that we're going to go through, we'll talk briefly about the architecture now. I'll then walk you through what some of the screens look like and give you some information about what we've actually done there and what they actually use, and then talk about some of the values and benefits at the end. So really their project here was a couple of key things they were actually looking for, was enhanced and proactive customer engagement. Right? They were really looking to engage better with their customers out there, constituents, they're also called as well. And they were looking to do that through a CRM system. The thing was, overall, they had a whole technology replacement platform that they were looking to do, but they decided they wanted to focus on the customer and start with that. It was a key driver for their business at the time, and still is, I believe. They were looking to centralise the management of requests and inquiries coming in, because at that time they had multiple systems handling these, which obviously made it a lot more difficult to manage. They want to centralise and streamline their customer repository. So again, having multiple systems, library systems, Kinder systems, their own property and rating systems. They had all these customers in different locations, and not really having that centralised and having different email addresses and phone numbers and duplicates, all the sorts of things that most organisations see and deal with on a daily basis. That was something they were looking to do, and they managed to do that through the Service Cloud system. Back office efficiency, they wanted to drive that using automation, and they also wanted to get better insight into the data that they were collecting too, specifically around their customers. In terms of, and for those on the Zoom, I apologise if you can't see, but if you can follow my imaginary hand, in the diagram here in the central bit, thanks Anita, this is where the Oracle products sit. So they've got Service Cloud and they've got Intelligent Advisor in there, although it says Policy Automation, it's a bit of an old diagram. So that's really the heart and soul of what this solution is, along with the customer portal, obviously, that's a part of that product set. Then we had the Integration Cloud and Process Cloud in there, providing the additional integration and for additional workflows, the more advanced workflows they're looking to do. On the left-hand side, we actually have the integration and the integration layer to their existing systems, some of their legacy CRM. GIS is all done through Dell Boomi in this particular case. And then down the bottom of you can see some additional things like the payment gateways, SMS gateways, phone systems mapping that was all integrated into the system to provide that holistic customer engagement, being able to provide information like mapping and things like that we'll see in a little bit. We can go to the next one, please, Anita. Sure. So here is just a screenshot of what the council portal actually looks like. So this is when one of the customers or whatever comes to the actual website to actually lodge a request. The top section here in the blue, we've actually got the instructions telling the customers how they can go about things, what time things are open, etc. And down the bottom we implemented these icons. And the key thing about this was, number one, having a more modern user interface for their customers, but two, what the council really wanted was to actually simplify things for their customer. Right? They understood that a lot of the customers out there, especially in their particular area, might not have a fantastic grasp of English, and they actually had a study and a program going through the whole website, actually changing the language, getting rid of a lot of the lexicon and that the council actually used, down to more what the people out there in the street actually understood. So a lot of these things, you can see we just had 10 high-level icons that had very simple things like, this is about trees or roads or paths, and they could select that, and then it would actually take them through a guided interview to try and figure out what is the actual request these people are raising. So one of the key differences as well was they didn't have to know what requests they wanted to raise. They just knew there's a car out there on the street that's maybe been abandoned or whatever, or there's something that's fallen down or whatever. They could go through and the questionnaire would take them through, capture all the information. And this is a key thing too. They wanted to capture all the information that they needed from the customers in terms of the request so that the actioning officers didn't have to go back and ask questions, right? They could get everything and action a lot faster. So the interview took them through that process and worked out what request was. And so in a lot of cases, the customer didn't know the exact request type they were raising, but the system did. And then the other thing that they wanted implemented too was these deflections, which I've actually spelled incorrectly. Defections, not defections, deflections. Excuse me. And that was where essentially if someone was going through trying to raise a request, and it might have been, let's say, a pothole on a road, which is a common one, the system would actually ask them questions to identify where this actually was, and then the system would actually work out, well, is that actually council responsibility or does it actually belong to another council or another authority like Vic Roads? And as a result of that, if it did belong to another one, it would actually give them information on who to contact around that. Thus saving the council the trouble of actually having to do that work for them, saving themselves some own work and streamline the process, as well as enabling the customers to actually directly interact with those people and actually activate that faster or action that faster by going direct. Next one, please. Here's just a view of the customer portal when the customer actually logs in to see, if you like, their account or their view of the world. So what we actually have here at the top is very much what you see in most service cloud systems is a list of requests, if you like, and it's got their full history there, of course. Down the bottom, we actually added this extra section for their properties. So you can actually see what properties they actually have and their relationship to them. So for example, if they're an owner, you'll see that they're the owner of the property, or if they're a renter or a managing agent, you'd actually see that relationship in there too. We have the little links up on the top right-hand side here, just for some quick links to things they could do. But the other thing too that was really key and important was that depending upon what relationship, for example, in this case they had with properties, that would actually determine what requests they had access to, right? So if they didn't own any properties or weren't renting any properties, they couldn't raise any bin requests, for example, or they couldn't raise anything to do with a property. And likewise, there are other things there where if you're, depending upon your relationship to the property, there'd be different requests you could actually raise or not. So that was something else that was very important to them. And therefore, again, stopping these, people raising requests when there was no need to. Right. Next one, please. From the back end view, the staff view of the system, again, very similar to what most systems have. At the top part of the screen there is the key information. So the customer information, what type of request is, the sort of information that the person working on it needs to have at hand. From here, they could also link back from the customer and get a 360-degree view of the customer, although I don't have a screenshot to show you, which would show them all the requests they've raised, their full history, any properties they might own, animals, that sort of thing. That all comes into it. It helps them to also identify their favourite customers, the ones that raise lots of requests. The middle section really is the tabs where we've collected together related information and made it easy for the staff to get access to. And of course, you've also got mapping down the bottom there, the geographical type information as well. One of the key things for the council was actually having maps in the system. Some councils choose to use, in this particular case, Moonee Valley wanted this product called Vic Maps in there, which is very much, I guess, governed or regulated by the councils and the Victorian government here, which means all the information there is accurate. Other councils we've worked with are happy to go with something like Google, where customers can pinpoint on the map, and we can do the same thing with Vic Maps. The difference is there's less rigor and control around Google, so it's not as up to date and things like that. So that's why one of the reasons they picked Vic Maps in this particular case. Next one, please. Another thing that we've implemented here for the staff is things that we call easy requests. So the idea behind these is the ability for a staff member, be it on the phone or maybe sitting at the customer service desk, to raise a request very quickly. In a matter of a couple of clicks, they can actually, more so actually an inquiry than a request. And the idea behind these is that it might be something that typically the customers come in and had a rates inquiry, asked something, they've answered the question, the customer's all fine, happy to go off, but we just captured the fact that that was actually raised there. So we've actually got an idea from an analytics perspective how many of these types of requests and things are getting raised. There's a couple options there, like whether the person wants to be known or anonymous in terms of raising it. There is the ability to put some minor notes in there if it does have to go off to someone else to get further clarification or whatever. And the system will take care of pushing that through. And as well, they're using it for capturing things like payments and that. So I think they had about 40 buttons or so on the screen they've got, roughly of different ones the staff can pick from and choose. And they're their most common ones. Next one, please. The other thing that we implemented in the system too is what we call our work assignment module. So this is something where typically in terms of allocating and especially automating the allocation of requests out to various queues or people or whatever, there's normally a lot of business rules that need to be written in the background. And I wouldn't say it's coding, it's configuration, it's detailed configuration, but it takes a bit of time and effort to maintain. So what we actually have is this work assignment module, which underneath is sitting all the business rules. But what this allows people to do is actually assign specific requests. So you have your products and categories there. They line up and then you can choose whether to assign it to either a queue or a person. You can set up all the escalation rules. So we allow up to 5 levels of escalation, and whether they're just reassigning to someone because it hasn't happened or just sending an email as a notification. We've got the SLA assigned to it. And then down the bottom as well, we have some additional information like areas, for example. So with councils, there's quite often, we have this area over here and this area over here. And if we raise a request, let's say a parking one in this area over here, it's going to go to a specific person looking after that area. And similarly, they have them with trees and other things like that. So what it allows you to do is very flexibly create these records, set up the flow of where information goes, and then when the requests come in, they automatically get routed through to either the appropriate person or the appropriate queue. With some of the additional parameters we have down the bottom, we can do things like identify if a request is coming from a counsellor, because we might want to send that through to someone different, like for example, send it through to a manager to take care of, or flag a manager as a result of that. We also have the capability of sending out an SMS to the actioning officer as well. So not only does the request come through, they get an SMS straight away notifying them that they've got a new one. For urgent cases, it might be dangerous dogs or lost animals or something like that as well. And the other benefit of this too is that it's set up in such a way that managers and supervisors can go and access it. So at Moonee Valley, they actually have their parking manager. They actually have a process of reassigning their people to different parking areas all the time, so they're not working in the same area. So here the manager can come in and very quickly and simply reassign all their staff to different areas, and therefore the request for that day will go through to the right person. Yep. So just overall, finishing up Moonee Valley. So this is some of the improvements in that they actually saw. So in terms of community engagement, they actually saw an increase of 10-fold, all right? And that was, they put it down to user-friendly and intuitive design of the website, being able to access and lodge these types of requests online. So they didn't really have this before. They had it for some things, but not all. And also the ability to actually capture whatever details are actually required. So it actually cut down a lot of a request comes in, okay, I've got to ring up and get a hold of this particular person, ask them more information, ask them more details to actually ascertain what's going on. Through automation, they found it was 5 times faster to actually process and get things done. So the routing was taken care of. They were going through automatically. There was less follow-up. And also, of course, we had the deferral or deflections, I should say, sending out the requests to all the other, or not sending them out, I should say, but stopping those requests actually coming through. And they were things they less had to handle. We can go to the next one. So yeah, Hume. How am I going for time?
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. Well, there's not much to say on Hume, there's only 2 slides. So here with Hume, essentially they're about double the size of council in terms of residents, a much larger area they cover, it's semi-rural, and go live was only just last month. And again, they're in the outer northwest part of Melbourne. Yep, next one. So in terms of architecture, a very similar architecture. They've got the same sort of channels coming in, slight variance there. We did Snap, Send, Solve with Moonee Valley as opposed to live chat. Service Cloud sits in this grey or second tier here with integration to the various different components. The next one down, this is one key area. So they've got a product in there called Deloitte Match Cloud. which handles all that customer data management, if you like. So deduplication, cleansing of data, those sorts of things. And then that then links into their property and rating, their existing legacy systems, record management, etc., to cleanse all that data, bring it together. And the next one. So the one key thing I just wanted to show, so one of the things that they've done at Hume, because there was more focus on the back end, so they've actually implemented the back end and released that first from Service Cloud. The front end's coming very soon, is they've actually done these detailed end-to-end workflows. So they've got a number of pre-built workflows now that handle various things. And some of these, for example, the waste management one will actually take the information in, send it off to the waste management contractor who will go out and do their work. It's system-to-system communication, real-time updates. Once that's done, it comes back to, for example, the property and rating team. They do their thing, and then the information goes back to the customer as well. And all that's automated, of course. And that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Really interesting. Yes, yeah. So anyone online, if you guys have any questions, please pop it in the chat. Any questions from anyone in the room? No. A few people hiding there in the corner. All right, then next up is Gavin Carroll, a Principal Solution Consultant at Oracle, on the topic on customer service requests processing. So we see the whole thing there, how this fits into the overall Oracle solution stack. Over to you, Gavin.
Thanks, Anita, and thanks, Brett and Deloitte for having me. Really excited to be here tonight. Talk about Service Cloud and various ways that we can automate requests for local government and indeed any industry for that matter. My name's Gavin Carroll, as we already mentioned. My history is long and distinguished at Oracle. So I came through the PeopleSoft acquisition. I won't go through the full story. And found myself in a team dedicated to a product called Oracle Policy Automation. And pretty much a decade on that, and then found myself in the CX side of things and been loving it. In fact, I've loved it all since joining the solutions consulting team. It's been really exciting, and especially now talking to local government about everything we can do. And I guess that's where we start. Go back a couple of steps, talk about why is Oracle relevant. Because if we went back a few years to when I started in solutions consulting, I probably wouldn't be here. And that's because we've got cloud economics, as we can see on this slide. Cloud economics has changed the game. That means a company as large as Oracle can now go to a small council in Queensland, 20,000 people, and tell a story without blowing out of the water with costs. But we can also go to a large council like a Wyndham and also tell a story across line of business. So the depth and breadth of our capabilities are there, and not as expensive as it used to be, the expensive on-premise model we used to have. The technology excellence is recognised by all of the key players, Gartners, Forresters, where we find ourselves regularly in that top right-hand quadrant, which is pleasing. And of course, innovation. So I looked at it lately. I do remember when Larry said we're spending $1 billion, why stop there? So we did what he said, it's not stopping. Next one, please. So we've got the full cloud application suite for government, haven't we? So everything from the human capital management or HCM, financial, corporate planning and budgeting, so work orders and asset management, which I was talking to Brett about earlier, P&R, property rating, billing, statutory planning and enforcement. We've got some exciting things here that I was talking to someone about before. Case management, we covered that pretty well at Oracle. Customer experience is mainly the presentation today, and as well as marketing and outreach, some really exciting capabilities there, like something you've seen, Eloquent or responses as well. Next one, please. And bringing that down, it's sort of three key pillars. So the community engagement is the main area I'm discussing for you tonight, and that involves obviously the customer portal, being able to have that omni-channel contact center. And a lot of what we do is across all the channels. So the omni-channel contact center means that we're able to get that 360-degree view of your customers, and it also means the customer can do things on any channel they want. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Things like smart digital forms, knowledge we'll discuss. Field mobility we won't. Brett's a bit of a guru on that, so he throws some questions through, but we'll cover it off very briefly. And in the middle, we've got the platform, obviously things like the CDM, which we'll talk about briefly, analytics, process cloud, process automation, workflow, very strong at that. And of course, to the back office on the right, which personally I don't know a lot about, enough to be dangerous, but obviously the financials, the procurement, supply chain, and so on. We've got that covered too. So that full cross-line of business, integrated, seamless, as they say, we think we can do that. But let's just narrow down now to what the topic is about tonight. That is CX and requests. And if you just jump into, beautifully timed, the modern council service CX platform that we've got. Now, there's a lot here, just very quickly, starting on the left, contact center. We take contact center very seriously. Being able to have that browser UI where the agents are able to log in and receive their assignments that Brett showed us. As I said, the case management, the knowledge that sits in there, and being able to get that contact center out very quickly, like we did at the Department of Health in New York, where right in the middle of the pandemic, 5,000 contact center people had to go home and work from home. So in just a few days, we're able to get that ready for them, which is a great story. Up the top, the digital customer service, obviously absolutely crucial. Being able to empower your customers with self-service, social knowledge, live chat if they want, co-browse, video chat, email support, cover it all, everything they need on the channel they choose. Bottom left, field service, obviously it's a great product, chatting to Brett earlier about, there's a lot it can do. I mean, so many smarts. If someone calls in sick, we can handle that in field service. If you're a carer, perhaps with field service and you need help lifting someone, you're able to call on someone who's in the area and get them to help with that job. There's so many little features with that product that make it so powerful. Right at the bottom of your screen, customer data management underpins everything we do, that golden record. We're seeing a lot of our customers now not just interested in this, but live. We have a council live here in Victoria with CDM. We've got a large unit as well in Australia live with CDM and several others as we speak going through that process. So being able to have that golden record and have the rules, configurable rules behind that golden record too, is particularly powerful. They call it survivorship rules. But if you just hit yes and you've done that, thank you, you can see that knowledge and intelligent advisor are probably the two key bits we talk about tonight when we talk about best of breed in request management. Thanks, Anita. And I guess when we talk the B2C service platform, and I know we've changed the name a lot here at Oracle, I apologise. We used to call it Service Cloud, we now call it B2C service. There's 5 key components that we've talked about, that we do talk about. Obviously, the digital customer service or the portal, right, where your customers log in and get that great experience. The service centre, which we talked about, or the contact centre, the field service. But the two on the right is what I want to touch on briefly tonight, and it's the knowledge. And that is, of course, the intelligent advisor. And when those two combine and you do it well, the results can be quite profound for your customers. So next one, please. And let's begin with knowledge. Now, there's just 1 or 2 slides on this. Knowledge everywhere, right? So if you get everything I say, think of that, knowledge everywhere. Knowledge everywhere that's insightful, knowledge that's intelligent. Right? And when we think about knowledge, we think about lowering that cost to serve for the customers and for your business. Right? Because if they don't get the knowledge that they want, they're probably going to ring you up, or they're going to come in. Now, what is that cost to serve? I don't know, but I bet you it's more than a knowledge session that you consume. In fact, I'm almost positive it is. So think about how do we lower that cost to serve? And in the case of COVID, we had no choice. There's no community councils. You've got to get online, or you can call us, and then the queues stack up. So knowledge is a massive, massive capability that we've got. There's so much to it. Every little component here could be half an hour discussion. So the authoring, being able to author with versioning and passing documents for approval. Your customers being able to search guided knowledge, one of which we'll see in a minute with IA, social knowledge, analytics, high knowledge is out of the box. So when you give feedback at the end of that article, that goes into reports that you can look at. You don't have to configure them, they're there. The authoring, collaboration, the knowledge is integrated. So what we mean by that is knowledge is integrated into those cases that Brett showed you coming in. So being able to bring up a case around waste management and have that knowledge automatically pop into that case. That's called Smart System that can do that. It's scanning those cases and bringing that knowledge in. And then you're able to share that knowledge with your customers. So again, knowledge everywhere, right? Knowledge for your customers or citizens, and knowledge for your agents. And knowledge is consumed on all channels. And a bit later on, see how a new channel can also consume knowledge as well. Time going okay?
Yep.
Great. And many public-facing examples, and that's what we like. That's what I like to show when we saw Mooney Valley. I love showing what you guys have done at Mooney Valley. I think it's fantastic. And in the case of knowledge, Australian lifeblood. So if you give blood, chances are you've probably seen knowledge here. Chances are you've probably seen an intelligent advisor at lifeblood asking you questions about when you last gave blood and where you did. Yeah. And Ipswich Council, I think Queensland as well. And many other, and I couldn't fit them all on one slide, but yeah. Our Knowledge Foundation product and Knowledge Advanced are used quite heavily, not just in Australia, but all over the world. So let's go next and talk about how we can sort of do that best of breed in request management. Obviously, the Intelligent Advisor, as I said in the intro, it's been a long time. It's a bit of a love affair that's still going. But I love talking about it because the power it brings to our customers and the way you're able to go about it as well. It can be a hard thing to describe. If you just jump on the next slide, please. How do we describe it? Well, the way we describe Intelligent Advisor is to think about how you already have now complex rules, complex policies. And I like to refer to them as static. And not just you as in a local government or council, but government, Victorian government, and indeed the federal government. So, for example, here in Victoria, there's an act just offensive. I didn't know that. Found out not long ago. The government has many legislative acts, and as a council or local government, you have to adhere to those regulations that they're passing down. And you have to be able to change and flex as they modify them. And very prevalent nowadays with COVID, you've got to be able to respond expeditiously to those rules that are being set at Victorian and not just Victorian, state and federal level. So all these policies, procedures, laws, rules, manuals, regulations, methods, they're not going away. They're there. But what we do on the left-hand side of the screen, we make them dynamic. Yeah? We create advice apps, decision support tools, guided interviews with calculations, assessments, eligibility, just capturing data. But the best bit is combining it all. Right, so when we talk about, for example, local government, perhaps you might request a new bin, but you might do something else with that. Yeah? Or you might calculate the cost of that bin with that. So you're able to take a number of bits of complexity, put that into one guided session. And again, the lower cost to serve. Right? By a citizen doing that, it gets them on the phone and it gets them coming in. And you literally just consume your session there on that particular channel. We'll talk a little bit about that as well later. So that's Intelligent Advisor, as I said, very powerful. And part two of the Intelligent Advisor value proposition is the author. So part one is the self-service and giving the customers what they need. Part two is the ability for the business to be able to author those rules, be stewards of those rules. And you can see natural language here in Microsoft Word without any training to work out what's going on there. Customers eligible for a loan, all these reasons. So when our rule does change, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we're able to quickly go into and that is not difficult. It's just ticking one box in the modeler, do that for you. So that if someone was to call up through a contact centre, you're able to then explain to that particular person why or why not they are eligible. That is massive. And that is out of the box. And that is why this product is found in social services all over the world, for that transparency. And next slide, please. Of course, Microsoft Excel 2 is part of the authoring experience. You're able to take rules that were otherwise in manual spreadsheets and automate them as executable rules in Intelligent Advisor. And what I've got here is some rules around assignment. Now, I love what Brett showed us around assignment, but Intelligent Advisor can also assign up front. And that's quite powerful because up front is when the citizen is putting in that request. So we're able to consume everything they're putting in and assign, in this case here for rubbish pickup or recycle or tip tickets, based on what they're actually doing inside that. So to get that assignment right up front is really powerful and save a lot of problems downstream. But combined also with, as I said, some other really slick assignment capabilities, and we saw that before. And also the initial status. So I said kind of a bit humorously about a 5-metre diving board. Now, that probably would not go into a status of new. You might immediately escalate that, right? Because pretty sure most councils around Australia don't allow 5-minute dialogue. So having that power up front is huge. Next one, please. And look, a lot of our customers probably don't know that you've got this capability. And interested, Brett, if maybe you've done something with this as well, but understanding the impact of what a change might do is also huge. So being able to tweak the rules and then run all of your data through that rule model and then see what the effect of that change is. All right, so I mentioned about fencing. If there was a change in the Fence Act, you could tweak the rules that automated that and then see how many more people might be eligible for a particular permit. And the charts are all Excel. There's nothing technical, no programming, no C++ or anything like that. It's all done using things like pivot charts or any charts that you're choosing. So impact analysis is massive. And the other thing too about impact analysis is you're not consuming anything. It's free. They're able to run this without consuming sessions. And that's a question we often get. Next one. And the other one too, and I am getting interested in this now as well, and that's the Intelligent Advisor Analytics. So being able to see where your customers are actually inside you. What screens are they spending time on and how long are they spending there? What percentage of my sessions are going over 5 minutes? All of these reports are literally out of the box and switched on automatically when you go live. For example, you might have a payment gateway as part of your interview, and you might see through these reports that certain people are not continuing past, and you can see the colour at the bottom. That, as a business, you might look at that and say, okay, why are people not going past the payment gateway? And you might conclude because they don't want to pay up front. And all of that's done, it's free, out of the box, and as I said, you can consume as a business. There's about 9 of the reports per rule model, and you've also got reports for the whole entire IA hub. So you can see how things are trending. For example, if someone's hitting a particular permit review a certain number of times, you can actually get that trend. And you might come to the conclusion that things are good. You might also come to the conclusion that things aren't so good if they're not using it. Next one. And it's interesting. We always talk about bins. I never thought when I started in CX I'd talk about bins a lot, but I've been talking about bins a fair bit. Bins are one of those topics that you don't go to sleep thinking about or waking up. But I tell you what, if something goes wrong, they are very, very annoying. So it's no secret that we're automating a lot of bins and bin requests, not just around Victoria, but around Australia and in fact the world, like the City of Yarra. Also things like Internet of Things, you can put on bins as well if you like. But obviously here in Victoria, and I know around Australia, bins change. Right, councils will say, now you need another bin. You need 2 red bins, 2 green bins. It's mind-boggling what's going on. City of Yarra, they did have a change, you did it. Brett's done some work in there at Deloitte, and it's all working nicely. And next slide. Well, what do you know? Geelong also do bins. I love the way they've got the picture of the bin here, showing the part that needs to be fixed. It's very friendly, isn't it? So the bins, and this happened to me. I won't criticise my local council, but it actually happened. But the hinge? Yeah, the hinge bin went. Now I did not have this. My council. We just rang them up. But here they've got the picture of the hinge, and I can select it. It's a very friendly experience. I don't need to ring them, so I know I'm getting that hinge bin delivered to fix my bin. True story with Geelong, when we went live, it was about 11:30 at night. First bin request came through 10 minutes later. Oh, what a great story. Who's thinking about bins at 11:40? Clearly someone was, because their bin was not working. Maybe it was due to be picked up the next day. And that shows to me, more than anything, that when you automate something that's important with some complexity, people will jump all over it. And we're seeing that obviously moving in Hume's early, but we will see that, I'm confident. Next one, please. Time going good?
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes.
Perfect. Look, although we're focused on the Australian and New Zealand side of things, let's not forget our international community. Service Cloud and IA are not an Australian phenomenon. It's a global thing. In the international community, in the next slide, you'll see the City of Albuquerque, I hope I pronounced that correctly, are also enjoying the fruits of Service Cloud. It's used extensively there. And also not shown here, city of Jacksonville in US, also very relevant because they get hammered by cyclones, floods, typhoons, and all sorts of things you can Google. So, you know, they really need a best-of-breed solution such as a Service Cloud and IA to be able to help them with that sort of assistance. And look, obviously here in Australia and Canada as well, in the northern states, and the solution we're showing you, talking about tonight, is perfect. It's like flood assistance. Yeah. What's flood assistance? Eligibility. Rules. We can quickly take those new rules that the New South Wales and Queensland government set out, and we can get them into an interview without talking for our good partners, hours, if not a few days. Especially for someone who's trained. And also try and get you into a position where you can maintain yourself moving forward. Next one. And then with all the sort of great things that are happening today that we're seeing and we're talking about, we'll also talk about the future and the next channel. In some ways it's future, in some ways it's now. And think about where we've come. We all know about websites. We don't have to talk about them. They're great. Are they going away? I don't think so. Maybe, maybe not. But we do know that we're on a journey from those websites, aren't we? Because as soon as websites came out, then portals came along, where we can mash up content. And then it was like, oh, I need a better experience. Let's have an app. Yeah. But as good as apps are, generally they just do that one thing, like the ANZ app or whatever it might be, just does mean for that particular bank. And then you get what they call app fatigue. Pick your phone up and there's 75 different apps on there. And maybe your kids put about 7 or 8 on there as well. The case of mine. So what we sort of found, as I said, was a bit of app fatigue, just too many of them. So that sort of brought in the next channel, and that was the digital assistant or the chatbot type of channel. So what is a digital assistant? Now, I guess what is a chatbot and why is it different? Well, it's massively different, right? Because our digital assistant is a true multi-platform digital assistant. Whereas when you say chatbot, again, it's kind of that one process you're doing, or that one little bit of functionality. A true enterprise digital assistant can do a lot. So what is it officially? Well, it's an AI-powered text and voice interface for user interactions with applications on any channel using the language of your choice. And that sums it up pretty well. We're going gangbusters with this at the moment. We're putting, well, I want to talk to the development team, they're putting a lot of investment in it. Some of the new things coming out now is sentiment. So picking up how you're talking, picking up emojis, how you're feeling, and also looking at the linguistics of the text. And then being able to do things based on it. So for people who say, oh, you can't automate, bots can't do it all, fiddlesticks. They can do it and more. Right? They can look at, as I said, sentiment. They can look into back-end systems. They can bring in context that the human may not. And they're 24/7. So what does all of this mean, I guess, in the Oracle landscape? Well, what you're looking at here is what I think is a pretty solid type of ecosystem. And that is where digital automation becomes what we call a trifecta, or a triumvirate if you don't like gambling. The digital triumvirate consists of knowledge, which we discussed, right? Knowledge everywhere, contextual, consistent, and of course the intelligent advisor, where that knowledge is complex and we need to automate. But there's a new player in town, that's a digital assistant. And the strength here is that digital assistant does not necessarily run independently of the knowledge in IA, right? It runs with it. Because what you've built in the IA knowledge can now be consumed inside that digital system. And the bit I love about that is you don't have to go down the digital system path right now. If you start with your knowledge in IA, those are the building blocks, and many of our councils are doing it now, which can then be consumed inside that digital system at a time of your choosing. If you want to go down the big path straight away, we'll support you with that. We'll support you, of course. Right. But it's your choice. Next one. And I love talking about this sort of, I love talking about this slide because it really sums up a lot of what I talk about these days when we chat with customers or prospects. And that is that digital assistant kind of in the middle, like a puppet master. That's where you go potentially first. And on your left, a channel you're choosing. So it's not just about the website, as good as it is. It's not just about the social channels. It's about the channel that you want to be in at that time. And that digital assistant then is your first port of call, and you're putting in what we call an address. What do you want to do to that? And the bit I love about the digital assistant is it's non-linear. And us as humans are non-linear. I mean, we met up today and we're talking about things. We might have talked about footy, we might have talked about the weather, but we change as we go. And that's what the digital assistant can do. So the digital assistant will work out what you need and create what we call an intent. And that intent may be to go to a live agent. Right? A live agent is still there. We're not dehumanising things. What we're doing is we're trying to lower that cost to serve with some smarts. That's what we're trying to do. So the live agent will be there. The live agent can get the full transcript and pop up a case. I can show any of you that whenever you like. But what that digital assistant might do as well is it might already know that there's a knowledge article. If there's a knowledge article about booking an event at your council, it will bring that up into that channel for you. No need to go and retrain it, it will do it, and we'll do it natively. And of course, our friend the IA. Right? If it knows there's an intent based on you wanting to kick off a permit or a complaint, graffiti, it will then call that as well. But really importantly is bottom right, this concept of skill. That's a funny word, isn't it? What's a skill? A skill is a bit of functionality within a digital system that you can build, but we've built already for you. A bit of functionality that does something like retrieve an order or create a case. So we're delivering these skills, not just in CX, but across the board, HCM, ERP, and they're baked in and they work. And you can switch them on when you like. So being able to utilise those skills is obviously a great benefit without having to build them yourself. And we're always adding new ones, and we'll always let you know when you consume them. And this is important because when you talk about this whole chat digital assistant thing, everyone sort of focuses on the front end. You know, it might be a joke, it might be humorous, who won the footy. But really the important stuff is the back end, Because a lot of the linguistics at the front end, fairly similar. I know there's differences, but being able to go and retrieve things and make it a meaningful experience, like paying a parking fine, where's my fine? That's the important bit. And finally, I might come in right on time, we have the concept of a skill store. So you're able to go in there and you're able to look at what we've done for you and pull them out and use them. And too many to go through here, but obviously they go across all of our pillars, the CX, the HCM, the ERP. You can take those skills too and clone them. So if you like something about, filling out expenses, you can take it, clone it, tweak it, or just use it out of the box. So that's the differentiators, we've got in the CX. As I said, that sort of digital trifecta. Getting that going, I think, is an ecosystem that I'm really excited about talking about. Not just tonight, but years to come. Okay, thank you.
Very cool. Thank you so much. There was, just as you started, one question coming from LinkedIn, which I think was for you, Brett. So I might just read that out quickly. So understood the work is initiated from the customer requests to generate work assignment in Service Cloud. I believe there will be a continuation to action that work out through an activity using Oracle Field Service Cloud. This will be covered in the next session.
Excuse me. So, we're not covering that in another session yet. We could definitely look to cover something off like that. In the particular case of Mooney, and I think even Hume, they've got other systems other than Oracle Field Service at the moment. They're legacy systems they're still using, and cases are flowing through to those for the field service to actually do that. And there's bi-directional integration between the two. So but that's something we could take up for another session if you want.
A session or a private deep dive.
For sure.
Very good. Thank you so much. I'm also seeing some people having some challenges with the live streaming. I just want to let you know that sometimes depends on your internet, or it depends how LinkedIn will kind of stream it through. There may be delays at times, but usually it's should be all live as it happens, and also the full recording will be online afterwards should you miss any sections. All right, without further ado, we go over to the next presenter. So Deepak, hello.
Hi team. Hi everybody who's on the line. and even in person. So yes,
Yeah.
today I'm gonna talk about the just one tip, which is going to be using online chat functionality in the Service Cloud. So yes, Anita, you can start the presentation.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us remotely today.
Sure, definitely. So yes, as I say, we are gonna give you the just one tip session about the chat functionality usage in Oracle Service Cloud. So yeah, next. Say people who use Oracle Service Cloud, whenever your customer has a question, what would be your initial, action? There will be four options, like four go-to option: either ask a friend or a colleague, or research on web, which is the internet, or contact the company by phone or contact the company by email. Next, Anita. But the easiest way, which we are all doing, and which is the preferred way, should be the web, which is internet, which is free, convenient, fast, and as many of options, which will help you to get the right information. Yeah, and next. So if you see Oracle Service Cloud, as like in this meeting, people have been explaining. It has like web experience, social experience, contact center experience, and engage. So web experience is nothing but just the, internet, using internet and getting the guidance, like the knowledge management, the email management, everything. Social uses the community where you can discuss about, the queries and everything. Contact center is nothing but where you will be using the help of the uh, people who would be providing the customer support, and engaging, which they would be engage services is more about the feedback and service. And this all together brings up the six cloud platform. So from here I'm going to give you the just one tip session, which is about the usage of service chat functionality in Service Cloud. So next, Anta.
Oops, sorry, I
No,
jumped
earlier.
a few. Sorry. Here we go.
Yes. So yeah, the main key features of the Service Cloud, say advantages of chat, why we are using chat. Obviously, it reduces the cost of call handling, and each agent can handle a maximum of five chats at the same time. And moreover, it will save a lot of time. Apart from that, the pre-built customer portal, which will be coming along with these, chat functionality, where they provide the self-service option and the knowledge base, where a lot of already derived questions will be there, which makes things more easier to access. And there is this co-browse feature, which means when there are multiple technical teams and you need to work on a single task, then you can you co-browse with them, the remote desktop customer assistance. So these are few of the advantages that we can use for the Service Cloud, in the chat functionality. Next one. And how this chat structure works. So usually the administrator configures the staff, and the configures the customer based on the requirements. And the chat in the chat structure, the manager creates and pushes the chats to agents, what kind of incidents, what kind of queries should be given to what kind of team, like that. And there will be a supervisor who would always try to make sure that particular queries goes to the particular team, as well as the customers are able to join in, and they would be able to get the knowledge base access for further use. Next one. So the chatting on the customer portal, how does it work? Usually, it's like how when you go into the contact us page, and where there will be a chat icon which is getting popped up, right? So there you would be mentioning about the queries, where they would be given a pre-list set of questionnaires where you can get the answers. If not, there will be a live help option where you would be able to chat with the person. And once you get the once you get into the right area where you want your queries to be clear, you would be begin to chat with the agent. Next one. So when you are an agent, how does it look? Because from the back end, this is how the the software looks like. The chat for agents, the screen, the window, the UI looks like this. And there is a tip which should be mentioned next slide. Anita, next one. Yeah, so this is a smart assistant. When a customer, or a client is asking you a question about certain thing which you do not have an immediate answer. So, but you can always use the smart assistant, which will help you to get you the already resolved queries, which could be the similar case. So if somebody is like asking you something which has already been defined, if you can just type it over there, the set of questionnaires will be there, and with that you will be getting the answers. So these things will help the agents to give up immediate answers, as well as like to solve the cases, to solve the tickets. Next one. And then this is for supervisors. As I said, that for the chat functionality, there will be two things: one for the agents, and the other one was for supervisors. So the supervisor would be like the manager who would be handling all the chats, where the chat queue, like they would get to know how many chats are happening and how many queues are there, and how to resolve it immediately. At the same time, it will also show the statistics for the agent, like how is response time is, and how is the responses are, like whether it is really helpful, whether it is like solving the tickets, or is it like just gonna just continuing to follow up with other agents. So all these details would be clear for the supervisors with the chat agent. And if you see that there's a image which I have attached, which shows the real-time situation, how things get queued up to use for the supervisor. And customer portal and chat. So say the customer portal can be created according to the need of customer. So it's an out-of-box integration between portal and agent, where to create this, it requires minimum effort. We can customize according to the needs of customer, and according to the styles of customer. But there is already a pre-built support version that is readily available for free for anybody, which will be like, can you come to the next slide, Anita? Yeah, if you see the first one on the support center, which is on the left side, so that's the pre-built, the default support center that is available for anybody without, of course, if they are buying the Service Cloud. So there they would be getting all the basic access. But if you want to customize it according to the needs of the customer, then yeah, there are two other images that I've given as a reference, which will be useful to for the user to make it more easier, to make it more lively, and also get the flavor of the company in the website which we are presenting. So this would help them too. So yes, I had 5 minute just one tip session, and I made sure that that one tip session is very short. So if you have any questions on that, you can just mention it over here in the comment section, or you can mail me. We'll be always happy to help via Austrian group.
Thank you so much for your session. Really appreciate it. As usual, if anyone has any questions online, please pop them in. In the meantime, we welcome our next presenter, who's Elia, who's the CEO of Datalynx, and he will talk to us about how government agencies are modernizing legacy data platforms to the cloud to increase their reporting capability while reducing cost and risk. So welcome, Elia, and over to you.
Hi, Anita. Thank you. That was quite a mouthful, so thank you for the introduction. So as mentioned, I'm CEO of Datalynx. So Datalynx is an Oracle ISV partner. We've been awarded the Cloud ISV Partner of the Year in JPAC, and we have a strong strategic partnership with Oracle, both across this region and in other parts of the world. The solution that I'll be talking about today, while it's not necessarily aligned with what you've been talking about, I believe a little bit earlier, hopefully it's still pertinent to your business. And as Anita mentioned, it's about how you can modernize your legacy data platforms to the cloud for the purposes of meeting your compliance obligations and also reducing business risks and cost. Specifically, maybe I might have skipped one there. Specifically, what I'll be talking about is how government agencies are already using this solution to maintain their compliance around record keeping, preserve their reporting capability from what they previously had in their legacy platforms, and as I mentioned, reduce risks and costs. So I'll start off by making sure we're on the same page when we talk about legacy data platform modernization. And what we mean by that is transitioning data from systems that were previously operational systems, core business systems, that may now be used primarily for querying and reporting. So they're not necessarily being updated anymore, moving them to standard technologies in the cloud. And these could be applications that are running in your conventional data centers. They could be hosted, or they could be running in other cloud environments. Thank you. Next one. Sorry, Anita, next slide, please.
Next one should be up, so there may be a bit of a delay.
Okay.
Is it you're looking at the legacy data platform modernization to cloud? Do you see that?
Yeah. Well, is it the one that talks about? Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's come up. All right. So the reasons why people would look to modernize their legacy data platforms, there's a number of business reasons. Firstly, it's legal compliance. So people have an obligation to keep data for a certain period of time. Financial data, for example, could be 7 years. But then we talk about some of the other things like client records, employee records, and so forth, and they can go for much longer periods of time. So there's the obligation that you have there. There's evidentiary purposes. So again, the need to demonstrate in court that this was the data at a particular point in time. Could be operational use, such as running reports and querying and analytics and so forth. So there's a number of key drivers for why people need to keep the legacy data platforms. Next, please. Yes. The common characteristics of these systems is the data does have ongoing value, whether it's for legal purposes or because of business use. It's no longer used for daily operations. So as I mentioned before, they could have been core systems, they could have been operational systems, but now they're primarily used for historical reporting. On the downside, they could be running on old operating systems, they could be running on old hardware and software. And so there's a range of issues that arise from that. Commonly, as the systems get older, support is either more difficult to obtain or more costly. These systems and often the operating systems and so forth are no longer being patched and updated. And even finding resources that can support can become a bit of a challenge. So the sorts of things that you need from these legacy data solutions is the ability to preserve the data for the duration that's needed under your compliance obligations. It needs to serve as a record of transactions that have taken place. So if you do need to provide evidence, it serves that function and can support business inquiries, allow you to run your reports. And ultimately, what you want to do with your legacy application or your legacy platforms is to remove this reliance on old technologies so that you can start to reduce your risk and reduce your support costs. The standard offerings that you'll find in the market at the moment typically fall into one of these categories. So it'll be lift and shift, for example, where you not only move the data set, but you move the application as well to a virtual environment in the cloud, if that is something that's possible given the technology that you're working with. Another option is a data archive. So this is where you take either a database or a set of files and you move that to the cloud. But again, that has limited functionality because without the application around it, it's what we would call a dumb data set. It doesn't have a great deal of smarts in terms of how you interrogate it. You could build a data warehouse, so you could either migrate an existing one or create a new one to move your data into, or you could migrate to SaaS applications. We don't believe that any of these in isolation solve the problem of what needs to be done with the legacy data. So this is where I'd like to introduce our Phoenix data platform modernization solution. And this is a bit of a conceptual view of what it is. As on the left-hand side, we have examples of legacy applications. So there could be a HR system, HCM system like PeopleSoft, a data warehouse. It could be ERP, such as Tech1 or SAP or eBusiness Suite, and the CRM could be Dynamics. Again, these are only examples. You could have AS400 DB2 databases or Sybase systems. It doesn't really matter. And then there's a standard approach methodology supported by technology for putting it through this modernization process. It starts with integrating with that legacy platform, analyzing the data and extracting it into a standard format, moving it up into the Oracle Cloud, and creating an archive copy for compliance purposes. So one of the first things you need to do is to create something which is in fact a like-for-like copy of what you had. And this becomes a read-only copy and something that you don't modify going forward. And the next two pillars are really where the smarts of the solution are. What we do then is we redesign that data model to support analytics and reporting. So what you end up with is a very simplified business model that has all the business relationships in it and that supports all your analytics and reporting requirements. We overlay that with a business language interface and then produce the reports. So there could be operational reports, analytical reports, and so on, But ultimately, you are now using the data for its intended purpose as a legacy application, which is really to support inquiries and to support reporting. In a legacy system, you're no longer running operations such as updates, workflows, or any of those sorts of things. So those functionalities aren't required, but you do need to be able to access all the data in its context, in its business context, and to be able to report from it. So when we've taken the data through that process, you're then in a position to be able to retire the legacy platform. And this is where you start to realize an excellent ROI through a solution like this. So you will then no longer need the infrastructure. You don't need the operating system licenses, the application licenses, the technical and business support, and all those sorts of things. And putting it through, I think that we have a bit of an ROI slide that I can show you a little bit later, shows you the excellent return on this investment that the solution provides. Thanks, Anita. A little bit of a more technical view. So how does it look in terms of the Oracle Cloud technologies that it utilizes? So again, if we look on the left-hand side, there's those various legacy applications, legacy platforms, HR systems, ERP, and so forth. The Datalynx DMS technology and the Phoenix solution then used to do the extraction of the data. So this is all the records, all the transactions, as well as all the documents and attachments. They're securely loaded into the Oracle Cloud, and they reside there in Oracle file storage for the documents and attachments. We create an archive, which is typically a database copy, and this is kept in read-only mode, again, serving the purposes of being able to be interrogated to produce evidence if necessary. And then we create a working copy, and this working copy is what's used to derive the reporting models and the modified data set that's used for ongoing inquiries and analytics and reporting and so on. This is run within the Oracle Analytics Cloud, and then you're able to use whatever reporting solution you like that is available on the Oracle Cloud. Once you've gone through this process, you typically would run your new solution and your old system in parallel for a period of time. You would run common reports and common queries on both systems and satisfy yourself that the results are exactly as you would expect. And then you're really in a position to be able to retire that legacy platform. And it's as simple as that. You then have ongoing compliance. You have ongoing reporting and querying capability through a standardized solution that works the same way regardless of which system you're working on. And we're working as on large government projects at the moment where we're putting large numbers of systems through the same process, and the users have the same mechanism for accessing the data irrespective of what the system was, and the same approach. So that makes it very easy to support and very easy to use. The other point that I didn't touch upon is in the Oracle Analytics Cloud, in addition to doing the remodeling, we create what's called a business language interface, which is an overlay of that simplified model that allows you to query the data in terms that are relevant to your business. So if it's a financial system, it's going to be in terms of the financial elements of the system. If it's a customer relationship management system, for example, it's going to be in those terms. So there's a number of different ways of accessing. One is through reports, one is through direct access to the underlying simplified model, and the other way is through this interface, which again allows you to ask the common questions that you would ask and to get the results from the system. Does anybody have any questions at this time? I'm happy to talk about any aspects, either the conceptual model or the technical model. Otherwise, I'll move on and just give you a case study for a large government cluster that we're doing. Unfortunately, we're under NDA, so I can't disclose who they are, but I can tell you the characteristics and not get into perhaps the specific names of systems, but give you an idea of the nature of them. So the client's requirements were to modernize numerous legacy data sets to a cloud-based analytics and reporting solution. They wanted to address their retention and compliance requirements and ultimately to be able to retire the legacy platforms. So it's precisely the sort of thing we've been talking about, the Phoenix solution. They're moving approximately 50 systems through this program. And what I've got here is some of the metrics that relate to the first 4 systems that were processed through this model. Now, as you can see, there's the first system is a finance system that related to client transactions. Annual costs of maintaining that system, of supporting and running that system, was about $400,000. The cost to do the migration was about $250,000, and the cloud costs are less than $100,000 a year. So when you extrapolate the savings, because after the first year, obviously you're no longer paying the project cost, with a retention term of 10 years, you're looking around $2.75 million in savings. If we then do the same for the client care system and the 2 HR systems that were in scope, and again, do the calculations, as you can see in the case of the systems that are related to employees and to persons as customers, as clients, the retention period is longer, And some of the systems that we're working on have retention periods of up to 50 years. So you can imagine the cost implications of trying to keep those legacy platforms running, if it's even possible. But ultimately, what this is translated to is just across these 4 systems over those 20 years for the 2 and 10 years for the other, a cost saving of about 21.9 million versus continuing with the existing model. What that does, of course, is free up funds for a whole range of other things, and this program is in effect self-funding. They're able to utilize the savings in OPEX to then fund the next tranche of systems and so forth, and the pool of savings continues to grow while these data sets are secured, and you get over the issues of potential data breaches with old operating systems, with old applications, the risk of infrastructure failure, the risk of loss of expertise in the technologies and so forth, and you deliver a solution that meets your compliance obligations and allows you to continue to report through a standardized approach for as long as you need to. Next slide, please. So getting back to the requirements at the beginning and then relating them back to the solution benefits, what we have with this solution is the ability to address the legal obligations that you have, because it incorporates an archiving and data preservation solution. It extracts the business intelligence, and this is one of the real important and unique aspects of the solution, in that it interrogates the data set, and we're able to work out the relationships, the business relationships, and to replicate those business relationships in the data, so that you no longer need the application logic to define those for you. They're implicit in the model that's been created, and so you can then continue to use that data set and interrogate it as though you had the application. It extends the usability of the data because you're now running on modern technologies. You have powerful analytics and reporting capabilities, able to replicate existing reports and able to produce new reports, which you may not have had the capacity to do easily on the legacy platform. One of the key things, of course, one of the key objectives is to reduce the risk and the cost. And as I say, you typically would see a return on this in the first year, and then you continue to see savings in every subsequent year that this solution runs versus the traditional approach. And of course, you have the option to migrate data to new SaaS applications if you want to, but again, that really depends on the outcome that you're looking to achieve. Next one, please. And that's it. I know I only had a relatively short period of time. Hopefully I've made it within the time frame. We might have a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions that I can help with.
3-second pause. Questions, anyone? Everyone is looking forward to a drink in the room.
Well, in that case, I'll get out of the way. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Really appreciate it. Of course, if anyone wants to reach out to you, you have the contact details here, and I think you also tagged as a speaker on the event. So, if anyone wants to follow up or is looking at this video after the fact, please reach out to Elia for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Thank you, everybody.
And at that point, we're actually at the end of the session, so I wanted to give all our speakers an applause for actually sticking to the timelines. I think other than a couple of minutes over, we've been pretty good. I'd like to announce our next event, which is in Sydney on the 15th of June, in the Hotel CBD, which is on King Street. It will be again a CX topic on building modern customer experiences with Oracle CX platforms. Quite a wide topic at this point. We're still confirming the presenters and the detailed topics, so watch out for the details. They will be announced over the next few weeks. As usual, follow our LinkedIn page for any events and any updates on this. And yeah, I wanted to thank everyone who made it to the first event. We had about 20 people registered for in the room and about 60 or so registered online. So I think that's a good start, and let's keep it going. Thank you, everyone. And sorry, guys, online, you should have been here in the room to enjoy some drinks. I will go offline now. Thank you.